Good morning to you all out there, all you listeners from Hurst Green Family Church here in the West Midlands. Hope you're all doing well. It's good to stay in touch. And any of you out there who may be watching this blog via our website or YouTube, I hope you're all keeping well. I hope you're all keeping safe. It's a nice bank holiday weekend. Have you been sat out in the sun yesterday celebrating VE Day? Whole road was packed with families out there, sat there with the tables and chairs and tried to keep a distance. Not doing very well. Good fun time. It's nice to have times like that in the midst of all these crises. You may notice something slightly different in the room today. I've not covered over this table with my green cloth. People have been saying, what you're hiding behind the green sheet, Nigel. So all is revealed, nothing too exciting. It's my wife Christine's card. She likes card making, and so she keeps all her card stuffs up here in my office. Oh, I share it with her, really. So that's what's there. You know now, I shan't bother hiding it anymore. Well, down to it. The last couple of blogs that I have done, I've found myself trying to address the age-old question, where is God in all of this? And it is a valid question. It's understandable that people will ask when they're going through real troubles and difficulties, where's God when I need him most? Where's God when I need his help? Where is he? I have to admit, last week I did kind of turn the tables on you and ask you a question. Do you remember I told you about blind Bartimaeus? And I asked you, if God walked right by you, would you even recognise him? You know, this is a really important question for every one of us. You know, it doesn't matter where you come from in this great world of ours. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter whether you consider yourself to be a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Buddhist, a Jew, or maybe someone with no faith at all. Doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. If we honestly want to know, and I say that, honestly want to know, some people will just say, oh, where's God in all this? And they don't really want to know the answer. But if we honestly want to know where God is in all of the suffering, the heartache, then we need to be able to recognise him when he comes by. This isn't a new problem for man. We've always struggled a bit to recognise God, even when he's standing right by our side. Now, on the very same day that Jesus rose from the dead, on that first Sunday, two of his close followers were walking the 7-mile journey back home from Jerusalem to Emmaus. It had been the worst Passover they had ever had. It had been a nightmare of a weekend, a shocking weekend. Passover, a time normally of huge fun and festivity and celebration, had turned into an horrendous holiday from hell, as it were, because their master, their Jesus, the one that they thought they'd recognised as being their Messiah, the one that they had been pinning hopes on and thinking, this is it, how long awaited, was was crucified by the Romans and the high priests. It was all they could talk about, and understandably so. Oh, struck me, Matt. Whilst they're walking along this road, Jesus came up right alongside of them and walked with them, inquiring as to what they were talking about. Luke tells us about the incident in his Gospel in Luke 24 and verses 17 to 19. Let me just read them to you. Jesus asked them, "What are you discussing so intently as you walk along?" They stopped short, sadness written across their faces. And one of them, Cleopas, replied, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that have happened there the last few days." "What things?" Jesus asked. "What things?" Jesus, even resurrected from the dead, still had his sense of humour, as he let them rattle on about what had taken place in Jerusalem. And they walked this 7-mile walk with them, 2 or 3 hours at least of walking along and then talking about what had taken place. In fact, it wasn't until they reached Emmaus and he stopped off with them to go to their home. It wasn't there until then that they realised who he was. They had no idea that they'd been walking and talking with Jesus. And again, Luke in chapter 24 and verses 28 to 32 tells us what happened when they got back to their home. By the time they were nearing Emmaus and the end of their journey, Jesus acted as if he were going on. But they begged him, "Stay the night with us since it's getting so late." How very hospitable they were. So Jesus went home with them. And as they sat down to eat, he took the bread and blessed it. Then he broke it and gave it to them. And as he broke that bread, suddenly their eyes were opened and they recognized him. And at that moment, he disappeared. In an instant, he was gone. They said to each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us?" The key to all of this lies just there. Did you see it said their eyes were opened and they recognised him. See, they'd been totally blind to who it was that they were walking and talking with. Now, even though Bartimaeus was physically blind, he had no trouble recognising God as he walked by. He couldn't see him, but he knew he was there. He knew he was God. And boy, did he call out and get heard. But these two, close followers of Jesus, they needed their spiritual eyes opened before they could see him. Now, it's all a question of light and darkness. Light and darkness. Sometimes people joke about Christians and they say, "Oh, have you seen the light?" Actually, they couldn't be much closer to the truth when they say that. You see, John's Gospel starts off stating quite clearly that Jesus is God. Jesus is God. And that Jesus, with the Father and the Holy Spirit, created the heavens and the earth. You read in Genesis, it is Jesus with the Holy Spirit and the Father creating the heavens and the earth. And then John goes on to explain that he is the light of the world. Let me just read that passage to you from John's Gospel in chapter 1 and the first 11 verses. In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He, Jesus, the Word, existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him, Jesus. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and that life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. God sent a man, John the Baptist, to tell about the light, so that everyone might believe because of his testimony. John himself was not the light. He was simply a witness to tell about the light. The one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world, Jesus. And he did. He came into the very world that he created, but the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own people, and even they rejected him. Even they rejected. Do you see that? Even his own people, the Jews, didn't recognize him for who he is. Further on in John's Gospel, we get the recording of how Jesus himself stood up one day in front of the crowd of people and declared categorically who he was. In John 8 verse 12 it says, Jesus spoke to the people once more and he said, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life. Jesus here extends an invitation. Initially, to those in earshot at the time, but his words remain to today, 2,000 years later. That invitation still stands, it still hangs there in the air, as it were. It stands for me, and it stands for you, for anyone who will stop and listen. He invites us to follow him, and then we will walk in the light. We can see where we're going. Otherwise, no matter what we say or do, we will end up walking in the darkness. Not knowing which way to go, not recognising God even when he's walking with us. Let me put it like this. When you're walking in spiritual darkness, then you will never see or recognise God. When you're walking in the light, you'll see God everywhere. You'll see God everywhere, in all things. And you'll recognise him, and you'll recognise what he's doing in every circumstance of your life. I want to wrap up this blog this morning by just asking you, are you surrounded by sickness, by suffering and sorrow right now? Are you on the front line of fighting against this COVID-19 curse? Excuse me. Do you have loved ones who are ill and you can't even visit them in hospital? Is your job or your business on the line? Is just getting food on the table becoming a major struggle? You need to see Jesus. You need him to pass by. You need his words of comfort and strength. You need to know that he has it all under control for you. You need him to visit your home, to break bread with you, to restore the joy of the Lord in your heart, and to turn those tears of sadness into rivers of joy. That's what he promises to do. You know, Jesus once looked out at a crowd of people who were following him, and he was filled with compassion for them. You know, I am sure that today, as Jesus looks out over the nations of this world, even as he looks out upon you, he has that same compassion and would say those same words that he spoke back then, recorded in Matthew's Gospel in chapter 11. He said, "Come unto me, all ye that labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke, says Jesus, is easy, and my burden is light." At this awful time for the world, at this time of great difficulty and trial and trouble and stress, why don't you come to him? Call out to him. Ask him to open your spiritual eyes so that you may see and recognize him, and let him come visit you in your home. He's not on lockdown. Every blessing upon you and your household.